Welcome. Today we step into a dark chapter of history.
You are a low-ranking samurai, and this is your whole life. You were born not in a house built for greatness, but in a wooden shack under a creaking roof and the smell of damp earth. A thin rice porridge bubbles behind the wall. A weak fire cracks in the hearth. Your father wears 2 swords, but that does not make him rich. His hands are scarred. His back is always soaked with sweat by evening. His name means something only inside the lands of one lord. To the rest of the world, he is just another man who must come when called. You cannot even hold up your head yet, and duty is already lying beside you like a second child in the house. You grow fast because poverty has no use for slow children. In winter, the house gets so cold your breath turns white. In summer, the heat sticks to your skin and runs down your neck. You were taught not to cry when your fingers hurt, not to reach for food first, not to look too long into the eyes of your elders. Rice is measured out carefully. Some days the bowl holds more millet than rice. Some days even that is not enough. You learn one simple truth before you learn to read. Honor does not fill your stomach, but your father still says the word as if it can keep a man warm. At 6, they hand you a wooden sword. It is heavy, rough, and smells like fresh-cut wood and the hands of the man who shaped it. You strike a post until your palms blister. If you do it wrong, you get shouted at. If you fall, they do not help you up out of kindness. They help you so you can get back into stance and keep going. You are taught how to bow, how to step, how to grip, how to stay quiet. They tell you your body must obey before your mind does. You are still a child, but already they are training fear out of you. Not so you can become a hero, so you do not break before the others when the time comes. You look at the older samurai, and for a long time you do not see the trick. On the outside, everything looks fine. The lacquer on the armor shines. The cords are neat. The helmets look like the heads of beasts. The swords hang at their sides as if they carry power by themselves. But then you watch these same men count rice sacks, argue over cloth, patch old armor, and quietly sell off their things just to get through a bad season. At night, you hear grown men talk about duty the way sick people talk about fever, something that clings to a family and passes from father to son. That is when the myth begins to split. When you were 10, they take you to the castle for the first time, not as a child, but as a boy who must learn where he belongs. The stone base of the towers feels wet and cold. The wooden walkways creak under sandals. The air smells like weapon oil, horse sweat, and smoke. Inside, everything is built on rank. Who sits near the door? Who sits closer to the Lord? Who speaks? Who stays silent? You kneel so long your legs go numb. That is where you understand it. A low-ranking samurai is not the proud warrior from stories. He is a man expected to be both a weapon and a piece of furniture at the same time. As a teenager, you begin traveling with your father on small duties. Sometimes you guard rice storehouses. Sometimes you carry orders along muddy roads. Sometimes you help oversee peasants who bow low not from respect, but from fear. You see hands split open from working in flooded fields. You see children with swollen stomachs. You see old people already bent into shapes like roots pulled from the ground.
You are told that order depends on the distance between people like them and people like you, but you look at their bowls and then at yours too often to fully believe that distance is as wide as everyone says. When word of another war comes, the air itself seems to change. People start speaking more quietly. The forges work later into the night. In the castle yard, ropes, straps, sacks, and armor cords hang drying. You hear new words over and over: assembly, march, siege, hostages, traitors. Your lord wants men, not the best, all of them. Anyone who can still hold a weapon and stand in formation. Your father does not ask if you are ready. He simply sets old iron pieces in front of you and tells you to clean them. Tomorrow, you march with the rest. You sleep badly, not because you fear death most, because you fear shame more than death. At dawn, they put armor on you for real for the first time. Not parade armor, field armor. It feels nothing like the legend. It pinches under the arms. The cords bite into your skin. Your shoulders ache under the weight. Under the helmet, the air gets hot and sour fast. You smell lacquer, damp cloth, and your own sweat. The sword at your side feels too loud. The spear is long and awkward in your hands. In formation beside you stand other young faces that already look older than they should. Behind you are porters, ahead banners. The sun rises, and with it comes the feeling that if you return at all, you will not come back as the same person who left. The road to war is not glorious. It is sticky, dusty, and slow. Mud under your feet, weight on your shoulders, an empty ache in your stomach. You pass through villages where people stare at the ground so armed men will not notice them. At night, the camp is full of coughing, metal clatter, whispers, and the crack of fires. Someone sharpens a blade, someone prays, someone vomits into the grass behind the tents because fear has turned his insides soft. You thought an army would smell like strength. It smells like sweat, damp straw, wood smoke, spoiled food, and clothes that have not been washed in too long. That smell travels with you like another army. Your first battle does not begin with drums. It begins with waiting. Fog lies low over the field. The grass is wet. Your fingers are cold around the shaft of your spear. Orders come in broken shouts. You do not see heroism. You see confusion. Men running, falling, stumbling, breaking formation. Arrows hiss past, fast and mean. Matchlocks crack somewhere nearby, and the air tears open with sulfur smoke. You do not charge like the warrior from a tale. You move because the men around you move, and the line pushes you forward. When your spear goes into another man for the first time, you feel no triumph, only resistance, a strange shudder through the wood, and sudden weight in your hands. After that, the fight breaks into pieces, a face smeared with dirt, blood across your sleeve, a helmet rolling underfoot, a horse screaming, wet ground making sandals slide. You see a boy almost your age rushing toward you. He trips, struggles to lift his sword, and someone to your side cuts him down before you even know if he meant to strike you or was only trying to survive the chaos. Battle destroys every clean shape. It turns men into bundles of instinct, pain, and mud. By midday, you are no longer trying to look brave. You are just trying to stay in one piece. After the victory, you think relief should come. Instead, the smell comes first. It is everywhere. Blood has a heavy, sweet, sickening smell.
Then come the other smells: opened guts, shit, wet grass, powder smoke, sweat, vomit. Bodies do not lie like they do in paintings. They lie wrong, awkward, mouths open, hands empty. Some have no faces left. Some are missing fingers. You help gather weapons, turn over corpses, search for marks of clan and service. Looking at the dead, you understand something clearly. Death here is not noble. It is cramped, filthy, and fast. Your father praises you in the smallest way possible, not for bravery, only for not running. That is your first real reward as a grown man. That night you get a little extra rice and a swallow of sake that burns your throat. Older samurai talk about the battle the way farmers talk about weather. Who held the line, who was late, who died usefully. One laughs because he is still alive today. Another says nothing because tomorrow may take him. You sit by the fire and realize war is not made of rare, great moments. It is made of the same horror happening over and over, with short breaks to eat. You do not enter your role in one clear moment, not with a ceremony, not even after first blood. You slip into it quietly the day you stop being surprised by orders. They place you at gates, send you with taxmen, make you carry messages that can get you killed if you lose them. Sometimes you watch over rice collections. Sometimes you stand beside a man tied up for theft. Sometimes you stay still while a superior beats a debtor for coming up short. Slowly, you learn the hardest skill in this life, doing what you are told without letting your face show what you think. The years of war stretch like a badly stitched wound. One month you're in a castle, the next on the road, then outside some enemy wall. Sieges are their own kind of rot. In camp, everything spoils slowly. Water in barrels turns foul, rice goes damp, bandages stink, wounds blacken at the edges, lice crawl through collars, men scratch until they bleed. At night, from beyond the barricades, someone coughs like his lungs are trying to tear their way out. By day, you stare at enemy walls and learn another hard lesson. Most men are not killed by the assault. They die waiting, cold, bad water, diarrhea, fever. One night, you are sent on a raid against enemy supplies. It is raining. The earth sucks at your feet. Bamboo rattles as if every leaf wants to betray you. You move low through the dark, not like fearless warriors, but like men who know a snapped twig could be their last sound. Once the killing starts, it happens close, too close for clean sword work, too close for thoughts. You strike short and fast, almost blind, and feel something give beneath your blade. A rush of hot blood runs down over your wrist. It is not yours, and in that instant, it barely matters whose it is. After that, men begin to notice you, not enough to make you important, just enough to bring you a little closer to men who matter. You stand at doors while senior retainers talk about changing allies, short rice supplies, the cost of horses, and which families might betray them. This is where you finally see what service really is. Not swordsmanship, not armor, not the code they speak of. Everything rests on grain, hostages, marriages, spies, and how many men can be gathered by a certain date. Loyalty sounds pure until you see how often it is weighed against rice and the chance to live through winter. You are allowed to carry yourself a little more firmly now, but your house is no richer for it. Your mother patches clothes until the fabric goes thin as paper. Your younger brother coughs through the night. Your father is growing older faster than he should.
His shoulders no longer straighten all the way. An old wound in his leg aches before rain. Your income depends not on what you have done, but on your Lord's favor and on how many men above you take their share first. You are still called a warrior, but most days you feel more like a poor official of violence, one given a weapon instead of a stamp. Then comes a short season of success. Not a miracle, just something rare. After one useful campaign, your unit gets a little extra. For the first time in a while, there is enough rice in the house that no one has to stretch it with too much water. Your mother buys a little miso. Your brother smiles more. You fix the roof. For a few weeks, life almost feels like a reward. You even let yourself look a little longer at a girl standing by the village well. It seems as though fate has finally loosened its grip. But these small pauses are dangerous. They make you forget that in your world, stability is only the silence before the next blow. The blow comes as an order. Your lord changes sides. Men who stood beside you in another campaign are now enemies across the field. War teaches the same lesson again. Memory is short, and usefulness matters more than affection. You march into the next campaign without the fog of youth in your head. You know how battle smells now.
You know what fear does to the stomach. You know the sound a man makes when a spear enters him. And that makes everything. His shoulders no longer straighten all the way. An old wound in his leg aches before rain. Your income depends not on what you have done, but on your Lord's favor and on how many men above you take their share first. You are still called a warrior, but most days you feel more like a poor official of violence, one given a weapon instead of a stamp. Then comes a short season of success. Not a miracle, just something rare. After one useful campaign, your unit gets a little extra. For the first time in a while, there is enough rice in the house that no one has to stretch it with too much water. Your mother buys a little miso. Your brother smiles more. You fix the roof. For a few weeks, life almost feels like a reward. You even let yourself look a little longer at a girl standing by the village well. It seems as though fate has finally loosened its grip. But these small pauses are dangerous. They make you forget that in your world, stability is only the silence before the next blow. The blow comes as an order. Your Lord changes sides. Men who stood beside you in another campaign are now enemies across the field. War teaches the same lesson again. Memory is short, and usefulness matters more than affection. You march into the next campaign without the fog of youth in your head. You know how battle smells now. You know what fear does to the stomach. You know the sound a man makes when a spear enters him. And that makes everything worse. Before, you feared the unknown. Now you fear what you already know too well. In the second big battle, you are wounded. Not badly enough to die at once. Worse than that. A blade slips under your ribs, glances off armor, and bites into your side. At first, you barely feel it, just impact, heat. Then the wound seems to begin living on its own. Every step shakes pain into your body. Warm blood spreads under your armor. You stay on your feet because falling is impossible. Around you are gun smoke, shouted orders, porters running, mud, splintering shafts. You last until the end of the day on nothing but anger and the terror of ending up on the ground beneath boots, hooves, and men no one will lift. There is no proper doctor nearby, only an old assistant who smells of vinegar, blood, and mildew. He cleans the wound roughly. You clamp your teeth so hard your jaw aches. The cloth they wrap around you is already stained before he ties it off. Fever comes that night. Sweat chills the back of your neck. Your whole body hurts. Other wounded men moan around you, and you understand that surviving battle is not the same as living through it. The real judgment often begins afterward, in the wound, in the rot, in the heat under the skin, in whether your body can fight off what came in with dirt and iron. You live, but not all the way. The wound closes badly. Breathing catches sometimes. Long marches now leave a dull pain in your side. You are no longer the young dog who can be thrown into every raid. The older men notice before you do. They put you less often in the front and more often on gate duty, supply checks, and watching over younger soldiers. From the outside, it looks like trust. Inside, you know better. They are not preserving a valuable man. They are preserving a tool that is still useful, but should no longer be risked at the sharpest point. Your father dies not in battle, but at home, coughing in a room that smells of damp herbs and stale smoke. His chest rattles as if wet paper is being crushed inside him. He looks at you with dull eyes and speaks of duty even at the end. Not of love, not of regret, not of being tired. Duty. You sit beside him and feel angry because this life has taken everything from him,
and still leaves him speaking its language with his last breath. After he dies, you inherit his swords, his obligations, and the unpaid weight of his past. A low-ranking samurai's inheritance almost always weighs more than it is worth.
You marry without tenderness, though not without reason. A house needs hands. A life needs arrangement. Poor people make practical promises so they might survive a few more years. Your wife has dry hands and sharp eyes. She understands the cost of your service quickly. When you are home, you eat in silence. When orders come, she does not ask if you want to go. She simply prepares what food can be wrapped for the road. Then a child is born, small, warm, loud, and in that moment, fear changes shape. Before, you feared for your body and your name. Now you fear that your death will leave someone else hungry. War never really ends, it only changes its shape. Sometimes it is a campaign, sometimes a feud, sometimes a raid against a village suspected of helping the wrong people. This is where the soul begins to rot. It is one thing to kill an armed man in formation. It is another to stand by a burning roof, hear children crying, watch your betters drag people into the road, and know that an order is still an order, even when it smells less like war and more like simple cruelty. After days like that, sleep gets worse, and each morning you wake up older than the day before. You begin drinking more, not like a fool with no control, like a man trying to turn down the noise inside his head for a little while. The sake is cheap and harsh. It warms the gut fast and leaves heaviness behind just as fast. Your wife says little, but she sees everything. You become sharp over small things. You shout at your son when he drops a bowl. Later, you sit outside and stare at your hands. They are still strong, but now the joints swell in cold mornings, and the fingers open more slowly than before. War does not age a man only through scars. It rewrites ordinary life until even your own voice sounds unfamiliar. Then power changes inside the castle. The old lord is dead. The new one is younger, more suspicious, more severe. He wants not loyal men, but useful ones. Reviews begin, questions, rumors, lists. Who drank with whom? Who is related to whom? Who said too much about taxes, a failed campaign, unpaid rice? You keep your mouth shut, but in such times, silence itself can look guilty. One man vanishes after being questioned. Another is forced to confess disrespect. A third is sent to a distant outpost where few return. You realize that for a low-ranking samurai, danger does not live only across the battlefield. It lives inside his own walls, too. Then betrayal comes. Not the kind written into history, the smaller kind that hurts more because it is close. A man who once shared guard duty and food with you speaks your name among those said to have complained about the new rule. Maybe he is saving himself. Maybe he is trying to get ahead of another accusation. You are called in at night. The corridor smells of candle grease and damp wood. The guards stare straight ahead. Before your superiors, you kneel and feel sweat slide down your spine. They do not torture you. That is worse in its own way. They make you defend yourself against something you can neither fully prove nor fully deny. Your life is weighed not by truth, but by convenience. They do not execute you. They do something thinner and more lasting. They cut part of your income and send you to hard border service. On paper, you keep your face. In truth, they push you slowly downward. Your house feels the change at once. Your wife sells cloth. Your child eats less. You leave for a new garrison where wind cuts through every gap in the walls and winter roads turn into open wounds of mud. There is no glory there, only endless patrols, broken gates, wet sandals, bad food, and the understanding that a man can spend his whole life useful enough not to be killed quickly, but too small to ever be protected. That is where illness catches up with you. First a cough, then fever, then weakness so deep even an empty bucket feels heavy. Your throat tastes bitter. At night, your bedding clings to your body with sweat. You think of your father and realize how little difference there is in the way men die. Not with dignity, with wet breath, cheap remedies, and endless tiredness. But service does not wait for recovery. You still go out to stand watch because the man who would replace you is in even worse shape. That is the truth at the bottom of your class. Honor is always demanded most strongly by those who do not freeze beside you on the wall. The final event comes in winter, when a small group of rebels moves along the icy road. This is not a grand battle. It is a bad fight in bad weather between hungry men driven to the edge by different masters. Dirty snow mixes with rain. Horses jump nervously. The ground under the thin ice is soft and treacherous. You step into formation with your cough, your fever, and a head heavy as stone. You block the first strike, the second hits your shoulder, then someone slams into you from the side. The world drops low, cold and white-gray. Boots pound the slush near your face. You try to rise, but the old wound in your side flares like it has been opened all over again. You are still alive after the fight has already moved past you. Wet snow drifts down overhead. Blood tastes like iron on your tongue. Your shoulder will not answer you. Every breath cuts through your chest in short, sharp knives. Around you lie men no chronicle will ever call great. One groans, one calls for his mother, one only bubbles pink foam into the snow. You try to find your sword, but your fingers will not close the way they should. This is where every myth ends. Not under banners, not in front of a lord, not in some clean, heroic stance, but in dirty winter slush among broken men. Your own side finds you, not to save you, but first to decide whether you are worth carrying. One man studies the wound, another looks at the sky, a third already knows the answer from the sound of your breathing. They drag you to a nearby shed anyway, lay you on straw, and give you water that tastes of smoke and wood. You lie there listening to snow crunch outside under boots, to men arguing over losses, to a horse stomping in the cold. Slowly your feet begin to lose warmth. You do not think of glory. You think of your home, whether your family has enough rice for spring, whether your son will remember your voice, whether a man can give his whole life to a system that never truly promises to remember his name. You die by morning, quietly, no witnesses who will later turn it into song. They wrap your body fast. Time is short. The weather is bad. The roads are worse. You are sent home not like a warrior from legend, but like cargo. Your wife receives the message, and maybe a small final payment, maybe the swords, maybe nothing but the burden of continuing with less. Your son grows up without you, but with your shadow still in the room. He will be told that you served faithfully. He will not be told how often you were hungry, how cold you were, how afraid, how angry. History likes clean phrases. It rarely carries the dirt with them. Your body gets little. Wood, earth, or fire, depending on what they decide and what can be afforded. Memory of you lasts a while inside the house, less time in the castle, and not at all in bigger history. Your lord keeps his lands or loses them for reasons that have nothing to do with your death. New men take your place at the gate. New boys pick up wooden swords. Once again, someone will look at armor and imagine dignity living inside it. Then he will learn what is always there under the helmet, the same sweat, the same fear, the same question. How much of your body must you give away just to remain useful to someone else's power? The hard numbers of your life. You live about 35 to 40 years if sickness and wounds do not finish you earlier. You survive years of hunger, several campaigns, at least 2 major battles, 1 serious wound, your father's death, a fall in status, and a long slide into poverty. You carry swords, but you almost never control your own fate. What you get is a place in the line, short rations, a few brief weeks of enough food, a family, and the right to die in service. What you lose is your health, your peace, your illusions, part of your soul, your trust in people, and finally, your life. That is the price of your honor. Not freedom, not glory, not immortality, just the right to endure longer than some others and die inside someone else's order. You wanted to be a warrior, but power does not love warriors. Power loves the ones who keep obeying even after they understand the truth. If you want to live another life where the myth is always dirtier than the story, step into the next one.
If you want more dark history, watch the next video.